And I would call upon Jonathan Friedman, who's a distinguished anthropologist with very strong historical and world historical interest, who is associated with Lund University and the École des études en sciences sociales in Paris. Please, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here. I remember, I know I've only have 5 minutes, so I figure I can say hello. In 1975, I think it was, I got a letter from Shmuel when I was in Copenhagen, asking me to meet him at the airport in Zurich. And I didn't know exactly what it was about, and I really had never met him. And he sent me a whole lot of material. And I never got to Zurich because I was poor in those days. But I figured that this was something about spying for Israel. But I'm not sure exactly what it was about. And I've heard subsequently that many other people have been engaged in these meetings. So I'll get there sometime. Maybe that's an expression of the axial age. The axial age, very briefly what I'm going to try to say here is that the axial age, which is part of an understanding of the world, I think Professor Eisenstadt has done very much to bring it down to a social science by linking it to other institutional transformations and social transformations, is in many ways very similar to the notion of modernity, which he also has made very important contributions to. And I'm going to treat it in exactly those terms. We're talking about individualization, a certain differentiation of the cultural sphere, where you get a secular versus a divine or supernatural zone, and which produces by itself the possibility of transcendence. It defines the conditions of transcendence, where one goes into another world. It also leads to what I would call, and I think the principal aspect of it is alterity. Alterity meaning that there are different ways to skin a cat. There are different ways of doing things. The insecurity of modernity is very much related to this. Now, discussions of modernity are very similar to those discussions. So there is a continuity which is very strong, but it also implies that what happens in between? What happened between the axial age and the 17th and 18th centuries, when things got going again? Well, it depends where you are in the world. I would claim that there are lots of axial ages, and that they come and they go. There are even post-axial ages, about which I want to say a few words. I think we're in one right now, which is why everyone is worried about disorder, and I would say decline, and increasing violence, and serious conflicts. I think that you can locate exactly the same phenomena in the past, in periods of axialization, you could say, or modernization, in the sense of the formation of modernity, not modernization as modernization theory would have it. There is a very strong development of an identification with a particular territorial unit. Sometimes we call it nationalism. It pertains to certain classes. These are always partial. So when we talk about axial, we're talking about the structure of a tendency and not a structure in itself. They very rarely spread beyond certain classes in society, and sometimes they are larger or smaller in their scope. But when they do happen, we get a combination of secularization, individualization, and very strong identification with a particular center. And when axial ages decline, and because the political structures which they're based on decline, which is happening right now, we get a post-axial situation, which you could call postmodern, in which we get a combination of identifications at a much lower level, re-identifications, reinvestments of selves in religion, the search for stability, for roots. And the two happen at the same time as other people are busy becoming cosmopolitans. A lot of people like us would rather identify out than be part of all that, which we consider to be very dirty and dangerous as well. One is only to compare the 60s to today. 25, 30 years ago, nationalism meant liberation. Today, it means horror. And the words have changed for this group of people. So I think that there are periods in which we have declines, and we're in one of them now, in this part of the world. I think that if you want to find the new axial age, go to China. They're into it in a very powerful way, as well as they're into exactly the same things that we were doing 50, 40, and 30 years ago, which is taking over the rest of the world. They are replacing us in Africa and South America at a very rapid pace right now, where we are hopelessly divided and don't know exactly where we're going. I think that in such periods you do get fundamentalisms, and that they are part very much of this process. And I would claim, and I really can't demonstrate it here, that it's not the first time. And if there is a tragedy to history, I remember one of Eisenstadt's not that well-known books, but I think it's very important, is called The Decline of Empires, which is a collection, but which I think ought to be looked at again, because maybe that's one way of connecting the process of both axialization and deaxialization to long-term historical processes. And if we're in one, then it's not a question of trying to find a better world. It's a question of what's wrong with this system that we've been living in for the last 3,000 to 4,000 years. Maybe we're into what Freud called a repetition compulsion on a civilizational scale.